us. So, okay, we are live now. Yeah, thanks for being patient with us, and glad to have my friend here with me, Dian. Yeah. So, Dian, maybe let's introduce yourself to our audience here today. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I'm Dian, and I have my own private practice, and it's located at Colorfully, Chinatown. Currently, I deal mainly with adults now, and I help them with various sexual concerns as a sex psychotherapist, including male and female sexual concerns or issues. I don't work with sex or porn addiction, so I will refer such cases out. So with my background as art therapist, I do also integrate the art therapy modality into my work as a sex psychotherapist. And, with the word psychotherapist, right, we deal mainly on the psychosocial aspect of sexual issues or concerns. And also note, and I want to debunk this, basically as a psychotherapist and a sex therapist, we don't touch our client's body, and in fact it's not part of our ethics. I do give them home assignment that they can do alone or together with their partner if they are a partner. But on the body part, I do work closely with gynae, urologists, and pelvic health physiotherapists. So I have colleague that can work around the physiology part, biological part on that. And it's actually important part because when we talk about sexual health and wellness, it's not just about the psychosocial aspect, but we also have to touch the biological aspect and sometimes spirituality too. So we really have to be kind of holistic in our approach. How I do, I get to this field. I guess it's I've completed my training from Sydney University back when I was still an art therapist in the hospital. And I was inspired to do it because partly in my previous line of work, especially with eating disorder and psychiatric cases, I've encountered a lot of cases of adult or even older teens with underlying sexual trauma. So I thought I better get myself trained properly on that. So with this background in mind, even though now I don't work with teens anymore, I just hope that I can impart useful knowledge to your listeners, because I know they work a lot with young people and youth, so they can continue to, in many ways, my indirect way to contribute, kind of paying it forward. So that's my hope.
Thanks, Dian. Wow. Okay. So today this topic, right, is really about how do we work with young people, and because this area of youth sexuality, actually it is a topic that I come across like way earlier on in my practice, when I was working with youth. And youth sexuality is always a topic that comes up that is very touchy.
Yes.
And people tends to overreact. That's one. And people tends to also shun away because they are just like not comfortable. Because I guess it also conflicts certain of their own values and beliefs and so on. So I personally feel that this is one area and subject that many of the practitioners out there may still have a lot of lingering ideas, that may not be helpful, and also questions as well. So I thought that today, this short session, right, will give us a little bit, of understanding how do we kind of like approach and help, the young people today. So Dian, in your practice, all this while, what are some common challenges, right, that you have come across that you with clients that you have dealt with or you have helped? Can you share with us a little bit?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, as I mentioned, now I work with adults, right? Even with the adults, I hear and hear again, there are a lot of what I call internalized shame about themselves, especially around their body image. including their genitals, or in Singapore, we often call it private parts, that really impact their sexual self later in their adult life. And this is really sad, actually. So for example, right, for girls, for example, a lot there a lady who carries shame, because when growing up, she kept hearing that no boys will want her because she has small breasts like mosquito bites, you know. So that gets her really feel like shameful. She does makes her feel like not feminine enough, right? Another thing that have heard and heard again, like with girls, for example, especially around our culture, there's this notion that menses is deemed as dirty, which is also sad. And I guess this is not true at all, right? Actually, body changes in teens, like menses, is actually a good opportunity for parents to have a sex education. Yeah, this is where they can really embrace and rejoice in their teenage daughter having a healthy uterus
Yeah.
that can shed regularly every month.
Yeah.
So it means that they have a healthy reproductive system. And I'll
Yeah.
be worried if our teenage daughters, for example, are not able to have menses, right? So it's something healthy that we should be celebrating, right?
Yes.
And through this changes in the body changes, right, it's also a good chance for parents to really talk about a way to maintain hygiene, or even discussing other menses issue, like what does it mean if I don't have regular menses, or what does it mean if I have PMS or having changes in mood and stuff like that. They rather go to trusted adults like parents to hear all this kind of issue, Joe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dian. And this idea or topic of sexuality, actually earlier on when I was kind of like learning about it or dealing with it, I come to realize that it is really a very, very broad subject, and it goes beyond just sexual intercourse. It goes beyond just the body, right?
Yes.
It goes into the identities of the individual,
Oh yes.
how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about others. So can you comment a little bit about this definition of sexuality today that we're talking about? What does it encompass?
So yeah, this is such a good question. So really, like you say, I love what you say, that it really goes beyond sex, right? It's beyond that. Like you mentioned, it goes, it touches on our self-image, body identity. It can also touch us about social etiquette,
Yeah.
including teaching, teaching consent to teenagers, for example. Like, um, I don't want to be targeting just one specific gender here, but for example, teaching our sons, boys, what does it mean to when a girl say no, and they say no, is to respect it and not to be aggressive to the girls, for example, or teaching girls how to say no and be comfortable with saying no. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's also encompassing all that kind of aspect, including aspect of gender issue as well. For example, I think you mentioned about that as well during
Yes.
our briefing session, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually quite broad. Like I say, it touches on many aspects of our psychosocial aspect of life, even spirituality, actually.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and this is one subject that I know some parents, right? They really, really like cringe when their kids one day come back and ask them or tell them that, like my friend say this something about private part, or my friend asked about what is sex, And this topic of sex education, not many parents are actually well equipped to actually handle, to deal with, and not to mention even like some of our practitioners, helping professionals are also not really, comfortable as well. And then we only know that, the school will cover this topic, but, at a certain chapter, at a certain level, when they are at a certain age. Yeah, but that's about it. And we do know that many young people, they just grow up with this question mark, a lot of question marks in their head, and then they just start turning to social media, YouTube, and
Yes.
internet, and that is really not been helpful, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
Dian, what is your experience, in this?
Yeah. Dr. Google can be a very scary place for young people, and they can get information that they may not be even ready
Yeah.
to get. I mean, sometimes you Google certain words and then porn come out, right? So it's really not appropriate for
Yeah.
age, so it's young kids.
Yes.
As as a sex psychotherapist, we have this framework called Blizzard, which is created in the 70s by a person named Jack Annan. And so the Blizzard framework is started out with P, which is
Okay.
permission giving, right?
Okay. P. Right.
Yeah. No, I don't want people to misconstrue permission giving. It's just giving them permission to do it. But it's about this. It's permission giving in the way that allowing our young kids to feel safe, free of judgment, to discuss their concern. And I think as a parent or even as a counselor, when a youth come up to you, a young, an adolescent, right, come up to you and say, hey, I have this sexual concern. Can you help me? Right. That is just great. I mean, that shows a lot of strength, courage, and maturity somehow for this young person to come up to you and ask for help, isn't it?
Yes.
So our role is to really allowing them that permission giving, allowing them, look, okay, if it's for social work, for example, right? Social worker, for example, like, hey, this is safe space for you to talk about your issues. Talk to me about this. How can I help you? You know, and when they feel that way, they will most likely be ready to talk. Yeah. So that's the P part.
Permission giving. Okay.
Yeah, even with parents, right? It giving them this, giving your child the permission that this is a safe space to talk about
Yep.
whatever concern you have, whatever issue you have around sexuality. But of course, what I'm trying to say is that I think for parents, it has the permission giving will be great if the parents have starting that when the children are smaller. So
Okay.
when they ask things about, mommy, where did I come from, right?
Okay.
So, or mommy or daddy, where did I come from? Now the permission giving is like allowing the kids to, okay, ask this kind of question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yes,
being
be
curious.
curious. Yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a word for it. Allowing them to be curious, allowing
Yes.
them to be open, to have a trusted adult to help them with the issue. So that's the first P. Yeah, another part of the permission giving is also, if you work in the youth center, for example, right? Perhaps having an environment that that can encourage the young people to actually talk about their sexual issues. So in Singapore, there is this clinic called DSC Clinic. It runs by the NHG, National Health Group. They have some kind of great poster around sexual health. So if you have that kind of poster around, it's kind of giving a sign to the teens that, hey, actually, I can talk about sexual health concern or issues. Yeah. So that's another thing to have, aside from just the one-to-one clinician to clinician to client that say, hey, this is a safe space for you to talk about this, but it's also about having the environment that encourage that conversation.
Yeah, yeah, and this is only just the first part of your framework, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's really
Okay.
so much to be done.
Yes. The other one is the LI, limited information. Now, often when they come to you, they probably came from Dr. Google. Now, okay, when this model was created, it was in the 70s where Dr. Google were not available. So there's limited info, literally
Yes.
information are not there, right? But now there are abundance of information, and some of this information can actually be scary and increase anxiety, right? And they can get misled. So one of your role is to provide some limited information to whatever issue that the client has, for example. And how you do that is you yourself have to download that information first. So for example, if a lot of clients you have are having certain concern, okay, to simplify the matter, I think is when we talk about young people in this scenario, can we just say older
Yeah, yeah,
just to
yeah.
simplify the matter, because I think
Yes.
I don't want to get into the younger,
Yep. So we
because
have, let's give a scenario. Say we are talking about older teens, like 18, 19 and above. Yeah,
yeah.
having some issues or concerns about their bodies, about their image, about their sexuality. Yeah.
Okay, so great. Okay, just to simplify the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's great. Okay, so okay, after you've done that permission giving, right? So sometimes they may not talk to you on the first go. So maybe on the second session, third session, they'll start to open up. Okay, so that's very common. So just be patient. But in the meantime, do educate yourself, because that's part of being able to give a limited information. It's also to know what kind of information you want to disseminate, right? So if it's about, if it's an issue about, for example, if there's a gender-based issue, Singapore has a very good resource, Uga Chaga. They have all sorts of resources that you can read out about gender-related issues, including addressing the young person with the correct nouns, assisting them with a process of coming out. So download yourself. Even go as far as get yourself supervised in this specific topic, because as I say, right, sexual issue is so huge. So if you hear a lot about older teens with sexual health concern, like sexual transmitted infection, go and read up. Like I mentioned earlier, there is this DSC clinic. They also have good resources. Read up on health exchange on different kind of sexual transmitted infection or ways to protect yourself, including the use of condoms, or even get themselves familiarize yourself with some STI testing. Yeah. So all this kind of thing, it will then help to equip you to provide the right kind of limited information for the youth. Yeah. And then the SS is about specific suggestion. Yeah. So the implicit SS is about specific suggestion. Specific suggestion could be telling the teen, hey, go to this clinic if you have concern with your itchy scrotum, for example, or if they have some body image issue, and if you suspect they may have an underlying other issue like eating disorder or something, maybe talk around getting them further help. Like for example, help coach them to get into. Have you considered seeing a psychiatrist, for example? Yeah, so that's a kind of specific suggestion that you can also give to your clients.
Right.
Now then that segue into IT, which is intensive therapy. Often it really depends on what kind of therapy required.
Mm-hmm.
So take the example of the transmitted infection, right? The intensive therapy will be to get the older teens to see a doctor, and then get the doctor will do the intensive treatment around their sexual transmitted infection. And maybe if you are the youth worker, you can help to follow up. Hey, if you finish the medication, because some antibiotics have to be taken regularly, otherwise that we will have a resistant towards this antibiotic, right? So just
Mm.
help to follow up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Make and just continue to give that message around safe sex, and maybe postpone having sex until you get cleared from your doctor from your STI. So that can be part of
Mm.
that, the whole slew of things. But really, yeah, it's always important for you in order for you to have to be able to give that information, and the specific suggestion is to download information yourself first.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, this is like this framework that you have shared. Please, it is really so helpful
Mhm.
to myself, and even I believe to some of these the different ones who are out there helping young people.
Yeah.
And I guess the challenge for practitioners sometimes is they're even like cannot even like get over the first part about just putting aside some of our beliefs, some of our discomfort, like, and then just getting into that space and just creating that safe space to give that permission for the young person to come forward and to share and to connect. So yeah, I mean, like, as good as the framework is, but what are some
Mm.
of maybe your to kind of like sum it up, what are your top maybe three tips and advice that you can give or share with parents, practitioners helping young people today?
Yeah, I think um, the first thing that pops in my head is really education is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, understand is very uncomfortable sometimes talking about these issues. And there's many things that goes inside there, right? Including our religious or cultural belief and stuff like that, right? Um, but a way to get around it is really educate yourself, and get yourself, like for example in Singapore, Aware is doing this talk for parents of birds and bees.
Mm.
Yes, birds and bees series, how to talk to your kids about sexuality, for example. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is worth going there, even
Mm-hmm.
for maybe for youth worker, because then it can kind of give you a more idea, more education, right? You're downloading more tips and tricks that is beyond this podcast on how to do it, for example. So yeah, continue to educate yourself, because there's also a lot of myth out there, negative myth around sex education or discussing sexuality to kids.
Mm.
I've recently read that if you teach your children the correct name for their genitalia,
Yeah.
it can actually uh, deter um, um, deter a chance for sexual abuse or something.
Mm-hmm.
I need to read it properly. So, but
Mm.
I read it before, something like that, because um, the chances are, if the kids are well taught about their different parts of their genitalia, that means that the parents are much more open about this issue, and it's also healthy to do that, right? If they go to the doctor, then your child and youth can point it out. Okay, this is it. This where it hurts in my vulva, just like it hurts in this nose, inside this nose, you know. So to just kind of like normalizing it, and it's actually a medical medical term, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so it's really to continue to educate yourself. I can't even I can't stop emphasizing on that. What was your question again?
Yeah, your top three. So yeah, your
Yeah.
first three tips, to parents, and first
Yeah,
one is
yeah.
education. So
Yeah, education. I can't think of anything else really. I think it's
yeah,
really the education is important, because with that education, then that gives you more confidence to
mm,
have that permission giving
mm,
stance, the
mm,
welcoming stance.
yeah,
Yeah, and also then it trickle down to getting yourself this limited being, so you'll be able to have this confidence to provide
mm,
that limited information for your
right.
young people. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dian. I think like this is already enough. Yeah, for me, at least as a listener, hearing you share
Mm-hmm.
this concept of just permission giving, yeah, and then like after having knowing whatever education that we need, that giving that space, giving that permission to allow the young person to be themselves and come forward and be open about it. So thank you so much, Dian, for
Yeah.
being here this afternoon with us on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I just want to let you all know that this is really one of the regular sessions that I hope to do, and then to invite different ones to come on board and to share, around ideas, tips, and techniques that can help young people be better. Yeah. So thanks everyone, and I do leave a comment, in the chat box. Yeah, if you have any further questions, feel free. And the email of Dian is also shared in the caption as well. So feel free to reach out to Dian, who is actually a sex and art therapist. So she does have different services and programs that she runs for adults, for couples, for parents, dealing with issues concerning around sexuality and different topics that she can actually help you with. So
Yeah.
thank you once again, Dian.
No, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I hope it's useful. And yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thanks. So
Yeah.
let me just